We're here in the beautiful gardens at the Palazzo Hotel in Monte Cassino with Paul Potts, winner of Britain's Got Talent in 2007 and real-life inspiration for the new film One Chance, opening April 18th. Paul, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you.
Great. How did the film One Chance come to be? Did the filmmakers come to you and say, Paul, we want to make a film about your life?
Well, it really started. I often hear them talking about wanting to make a movie in 2007, and I just kind of laughed it off at that point. And then a proposal came forward in 2008. But these things often get talked about, and there are many movie contracts signed for the rights to tell a story. But that doesn't ever mean that it's going to happen.
Yes.
Vast majority of them never come to anything. So I refused to believe it until I actually saw the ads actually outside cinemas. Until I saw that, I didn't believe in it happening, and eventually it did. But you know, it's still mind-boggling because you know they usually wait till you're dead. So I'm sure that complicated things for them. I think it's harder to make a biographical film about somebody that's still alive.
Yes.
Because that's the reason why I kind of once I'd had the early discussions with the screenplay writer, kind of talked about how my life turned out. Then I left them to it. I mean, my wife and I went to watch them making the wedding scene. But apart from that, we kind of left them to it because otherwise it's too easy to say, well, that's not right. And then what you end up with is an uncohesive mess of a movie.
Yes.
And the only real dictation that I gave was I wanted it to be funny, because I think there's an important message in the movie, and it's that I mean, I've written an autobiography book as well, and whereas some of the facts are different between the two of them, the overall message is exactly the same, and it's really important to get that message across. But I think that sometimes if people feel like they're being preached to, they're thinking, no, why should I listen? I think sometimes it's better when a message just comes across and when people are being entertained.
Yes.
And that message is the same in both the film and the book, and that is that when in life often you'll have obstacles. And life's never smooth, it doesn't work like that.
Yes.
You'll get obstacles, but you'll get to where you want to be by just keeping going. And you do that by not just having determination, not just having your own perseverance, but because of the people around you that are there supporting you.
Yes, yes.
And that's the same message in the book, the same message in the film. And that's a really important message, because I think sometimes people get defeated by what's right in front of them, and sometimes you just need to take a detour and then come back. It's not about travelling in a straight line.
Yes.
Life just doesn't work in straight lines.
How close to the real life events in your life is the film?
Well, they made quite a few changes, but for me, that wasn't important. The message was more important, and because I'd asked them to make it a comedy, not a documentary,
yes,
there were always going to be variations. But the shape of the film is exactly right. To pick one example, the masterclass with Pavarotti actually went very well.
Okay.
But it was mainly because in the real situation, it was almost like a concert, not like an audition.
Yes.
In the film, it's portrayed like it's an audition.
Yes.
And they've got my personality right, because if I'd have been there in that setup with just other singers and Pavarotti and a singing teacher, I could very well have bottled it the way I did, and the way my character did. And that's completely believable. With the actual audition, with the actual masterclass, it went very well, and I was the only one that Pavarotti asked to sing twice. But I had an audience, so I had something to feed back off, and that for me is always very important, and I felt more comfortable then. I still made mistakes, but I had something to feed back off, so I was a little less nervous, and it was to the extent that the nerves didn't take over, whereas they might have done had I been in the situation as it was portrayed in the movie.
Absolutely.
But the shape is exactly the same, because after those masterclasses that I did initially that year in 2001, I didn't go off and start singing professionally. I went back to work. Not that it still works, but I was working in a supermarket at the time. I went back to work, and got on with what I was doing before. You didn't lead anywhere. So the shape of the story is exactly the same.
Was that a conscious choice to go back to work then, or did you just not get any offers to further your singing career?
Well, I've never been a very pushy person, and partly due to lack of confidence, but partly because of just how I am. I've never been a particularly pushy person, and my attitude was always that I'd rather have if onlys than never was.
Yes.
And so I kind of hold back on things and not try and go for something so that I could think back, well, if only I'd done that, I might have done this. Whereas if I hadn't actually tried it and not succeeded, then it's like saying a definite no.
Yes.
I'd rather have a possible maybe than a definite no. And I was like that with girls when I was at school. When I was younger, I wouldn't ask a girl out because I could always feel that, perhaps if I'd have asked her, maybe she would have said yes. Whereas in my head, if I did ask her, she'd definitely say no.
I can relate.
So that's how I kind of handled things, partly through conditioning. 12 years of extreme physical bullying does do that.
Yes.
But partly because that is partly what I am. I can be shy. Singing is really my way out of that. For me, it's a bit like a key opening a door. It takes me into a world where suddenly I belong there, and it's always felt like that. It still does, and always has. And there were times in my childhood when it was the only place I belonged. And so it's always felt like that secure spot. And really my only fear when I started singing professionally in 2007 was that it would stop feeling like that place. It would suddenly feel like work.
Yes.
Because that is a big risk when you change everything from being an amateur into a professional.
Yes.
Is that something you love doing as a hobby suddenly becomes to feel like work and you lose the joy. Because that's a very big thing to lose. And
yes.
Thankfully I still get as much joy out of it. I mean, I've done something like 550 shows since then. And about over 6 years is a huge amount of shows. But I love every one. I mean, I love the feedback I get from an audience.
Yes.
And although I still feel nervous before everyone, that never goes away.
Yeah.
And that's as it should be, because I think if you stop being nervous, it stops being important. And if something's important to you, then you'll always be frightened of losing it, and you'll always be frightened of not doing as well as you can.
Yes, it does become just a job then.
Yeah.
Rob Cordon plays you in the film. Did you meet him before the film? Did he come and chat to you about the role?
I met James actually by accident at one point, way before the film was being talked about seriously, and we'd met in a hotel in West London, and he'd come in. It's quite funny. He'd come in and dumped a carrier bag down on the bar and said, "All they've left me is my dirty underwear." And Jules, my wife, laughed at him. And he turned around to Jules and says, "I've had my car broken into, and all they've left me is my dirty laundry." And you're laughing. And Jules said, "Well, you're the comedian." I didn't know who he was at the time, because I'd been away when the thing that made his name in the UK had been on, Gavin and Stacey.
Yes.
And so it was quite funny the way when we first met. But because I toured so much, we didn't have the opportunity to sit down and have later meetings. But in a way, I think that made it better, because it's no good for an actor to copy someone, because you can't copy another person. All you can do is to give your interpretation of how that person's life turned out. And that's what an actor's role is. It isn't to be someone else. It's to give their interpretation of someone else.
Absolutely.
Part of their own personality will always come through.
Yes.
You can't get rid of your own personality when you're acting. You just use parts of your personality to interpret who that person is.
Well, what do you think about his performance in the film?
I think it's been great. It's quite a hard job to do, to play the comedy and the drama at the same time.
Yes.
I think the strangest thing for me is when he opens his mouth to sing and it's my voice.
Is it really your voice?
Yeah, it's my voice throughout. Yes, throughout the. Every time you see James's mouth open as an adult, it's my voice.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. So you
Even
must,
some of the heavy breathing is my
well, you must be thrilled with the end product of the film, because it's a really
love it.
lovely film.
I love it. I wanted it to be something that made people laugh and make them smile. Because I didn't want people walking out of that cinema feeling sorry for me.
Yes.
I want people walking out of the cinema to be smiling and think, great story. And I enjoyed it. I want people to enjoy the movie. I want them to feel that they've learned something about themselves as well as about me, and that is that, you know, I've learned a lot about myself over my life, and you're always stronger than you think you are.
Yes.
And you don't know how strong you are until you're tested, and in life that happens all the time. But you know, I don't think sometimes people that are being bullied just don't see anybody else around, but there are people around for them. It's just sometimes you don't see them.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think in life sometimes we're too hard on ourselves, and we aim for things that are unattainable. And when you do that, you're always going to fail in that situation. I'm often asked by journalists in the UK and Europe, you know, and then they compare me to other artists that have come through similar methods as I have. And I've been doing this now for 7 years, which is a long career in this industry. And I've been asked why other acts aren't as successful, but it depends how you define successful. If somebody is doing what they love doing, how can you argue that's not successful?
Absolutely.
If you get to do what you dream of doing, surely that's the ultimate definition of success. If you're doing what you dream of doing, that is the dream. And if you're achieving that, then you're doing something that very few people end up getting the opportunity to do.
Yes.
So that is, for me, the ultimate definition of success.
Yeah. Seeing, I mean, obviously it's not entirely true to life, but it's got the same themes to the film.
Yeah.
Seeing it on the screen like that, seeing it spotlight, you know, your entire life as it played out, do you still have to pinch yourself to see where you are now?
Constantly. When they first started talking about making the movie, when they first started talking about it seriously during 2008, I thought, well, this is never going to happen. And now when I think about it, I think, well, they normally wait until you're dead. They normally wait until you're dead so they make a movie about you. So I had to pinch myself to make sure I was still alive. I had to pinch myself so it hurts, you know. But you know, I'm in many ways I can't believe how fortunate I am to do what I love and to see great places like here, South Africa. My second visit here, my first professional visit here.
Yes.
But I went to Cape a few years ago with my wife and loved it. And fingers crossed. There's no wood to touch, but hopefully I'll be back later in the year to hear some shows. I'd love to do that. And it's, you know, I love this country when I visit the country and spend some time down in the Cape. So I'd love to see more of it. I've heard that Durban can be really, really hot and humid, but it's a great place to visit.
Yes. Summertime.
And I've been to Cape and I'd love to go again. And I've been around the wineries. I've been around quite a lot of important wineries there. And one of my jobs is when I was working for a supermarket as a wine advisor. So I have been trained to sommelier standards. So I know wine and I enjoy South African wine very much.
Does our wine match up to the European stuff that you were testing over there?
A lot of it better.
Oh, lovely.
Cheaper here too, for us in any case.
Especially with the exchange rate.
The exchange rate's very nice for us. But I mean, one of my favourite grape varieties anywhere in the world is Pinot Grigio.
Yes.
Which is unique to South Africa.
Okay.
And I met Biostruta when I was at Biostruta, and I went to Kamunko and I bought quite a lot of their wine back home with me, and then I ordered more when I ran out. So I've got some nice one vintage Pinot Grigio at home. It's sensational stuff.
That's fantastic.
And they make wine in a very old-fashioned way, and they open butts here, so it's exposed to the air. So you get some of the what they call terroir.
Yes.
You get some of the. It's very local and it's very unique, and I love South African wine for that.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, I'm really glad they made the film because it's a lovely story and it gets us to know you a bit better as well, which is wonderful. So thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you.
And good luck with the film, and hopefully we'll see you later on this year for shows. It'll be fantastic.
I'll be here later on in your winter and my summer at home.
Yes,
but
well, it'll be
I'm
the
sure
same
it'll
as your-
probably be but it'll be warmer than here, sunnier here, and then
Absolutely.
you know. In the UK, August is the wettest month of the year, generally.
Oh, after all the
And
rain that you've had recently.
That's when school
holidays.
School holidays is August, and it's consistently the wettest month of the year.
Crazy.
Although, I mean, December, January were.
Yeah, it was
horrendous.
ridiculous. We're crazy weather there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.